while glacial melt and limited Tibetan rainfall contributes only to 30 to 35% of the river water flow. Let me break it down for you. Brahmaputra is a river that grows in India and does not shrink. China contributes just 30 to 35% of Brahmaputra's flow in glacial melt and limited Tibetan rainfall. 3. 65 to 70% is generated by rainfall in northeast. 4th, tributaries like Subansiri, Lohit, Kameng, Mansa and also many other smaller tributaries contribute to Brahmaputra. Inflow comes in from hills via Krishnai, Degaru and Kulsi rivers. Brahmaputra is not a river India depends on upstream. It is a rain-fed Indian river system strengthened after entering Indian territory, and China has not revealed any such move about reducing water flow. Now, even if it happens, it might have a different impact. Sarma has a different position on it. Sarma's response came after senior aide to Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Rana Ehsan Afzal, reportedly said that on the lines of India's suspension of the IWT, China can take similar measures by stalling the flow of the river. On this issue, I am joined by Balraj Joshi, former CMD, National Hydroelectric Power Corporation, and Professor Swaran Singh, Center for International Politics, JNU. Let me thank you both of you for joining me. Let me straight away go to Balraj Joshi first. So, what is the difference between Brahmaputra river system and the Indus river system? Please decode it for our viewers first, sir.
There's a lot of difference because the Brahmaputra, if you see, you already put the point actually in perspective. Let me put some figures to it. Brahmaputra catchment area is total 5,80,000 square kilometers. Out of that, 33% is in India. That's about 194 odd square kilometers, 1,94,000. And China has 2,93,000. Then Bhutan and Bangladesh, they have about 47,000. And as you rightly said, also the rainfall is almost 500 mm. Less than that is in Chinese region, whereas in Indian region, it's an average of about 3,500 millimeter. So what Mr. Biswa Sarma has said is correct. The entire discharge of Brahmaputra majorly is contributed by the Indian catchment part. And whereas in Indus system, even if it large part falls in China, it is snow-fed, but probably China cannot do any such activity there for the very reason that it will affect Pakistan also, if that is the political rhetoric, if we take the face value. So it is true that Chinese catchment area, it contributes only about 30% to the discharge. Having said that, now suppose even theoretically if you assume that China wants to stop the flow, so we are not worried. Let it flow, let it stop the flow, because our major problem has been a flood in the Brahmaputra, for which an elaborate system and cascade of the projects has been laid out by Central Water Commission. We are not able to construct those for reasons, because the Inkyong will be submerged and there is local uprising against that. I say let China stop the water. Probably it will help the flood situation down below in Guwahati. And it will also give us reasons to construct, and probably also to construct those projects which are not seen the day of the light for last 25-30 years. So, hello.
Please go on. I think there's a bit of a band problem, sir. We'll try to fix the. Sir, we'll try to fix your band problem. Let me go across to Professor Swaran Singh. Sir, China has built big dams, tried to affect the river systems in Mekong and other big rivers, and blackmailed Southeast Asian countries, sir. My question to you is, what stops China from doing the same to India when it has done the same thing in Southeast Asia in multiple ways, sir?
I think, as was already said by Assam Chief Minister and my co-panelists, the precipitation or the rainwater flow in case of the river that is called Yarlung Tsangpo in China, then it becomes Brahmaputra in India, and Jamuna in Bangladesh before it joins Ganges. Chinese share is, as the Chief Minister also said, is between 30 to 35%. Bulk of the precipitation happens in Indian side of Northeast, which you also mentioned, in various provinces of Northeast. So it is India that contributes large amount of water that flows in Brahmaputra and then goes to Bangladesh. Let me also underline the fact that comparing Indus with Brahmaputra is nothing but foolhardy barbos. They are absolutely not comparable. They are apples and oranges. Indus Water Treaty has been celebrated as a model of water sharing around the world. We have no such arrangements when it comes to China, India, and Bangladesh. We had some understanding agreement in 2006 on creating hydrological data to be shared between May and October, which has happened extremely erratic. And then, of course, we had also set up expert level mechanism to have discussions, which has also become dysfunctional. So fundamentally, last time in December of last year, the special representatives, Ajit Doval from Indian side and Wang Yi from China, had discussed the water sharing issue because at that time, in that month only, Chinese had approved construction of not just theirs, but world's largest hydropower project, very close to India's border on Yarlung Sangpo, which becomes Brahmaputra as it enters India. So that I think is an issue between China and India. And that again is fundamentally because this Eastern Himalayan syntax is the most vulnerable, most unstable region of planet Earth. And there could be glaciers retreats, as you mentioned. You could be having lake outbursts. That could make dams fail in certain situations. And if you're building potentially a dam of world's largest size, and imagine this is a 50 kilometers region in that bend where water falls about 2,000 meters. And it's a very unusual situation. And if Chinese are trying to build world's largest dam here, nature could be their biggest enemy and India will be the one to get impacted through that. Otherwise, Chinese officially, let me say, have never used that water threat against India because they cannot. I mean, there is absolutely no water that they can hold and flood India except, minor. If they build a huge dam like this, then maybe potentially they can withhold certain amount of water and then release it when we don't need it. But that's very limited and 30-35% of precipitation that happens. So, people who are trying to create a narrative that Chinese will do something that India will do to Pakistan is absolutely foolish because India has been extremely generous in creating that water sharing arrangement with Pakistan. And right now it is only held in abeyance. India has not denied water to Pakistan right away. And that comparing it to what China can do to India is I think at best, foolhardy is something that I can say. So there is no fundamental threat that can occur by Chinese withholding or releasing the floods, except that the dams that they're building, which is in conversation between India and China at the level of special representatives, potentially that can be very, very dangerous project to build in that very, very unstable, fragile region of Himalayas. And that is an issue which India has already taken with China. So I don't think there is any validity in making that comparison of what fundamentally a very senior former translator of Deng Xiaoping, the paramount leader of China, Victor Cao, he apparently said on television that, India should not do unto others what it doesn't want others to do it to itself. Is absolutely, I think, useless kind of a comment to make. He's known for his radical views. So he has shot up something which is to create just unnecessary attention or controversy. But China, remember, officially has never threatened such thing because they know they cannot, and India knows that they cannot fundamentally threaten restraining or releasing of floods of this particular river on India. And issue which is separate about dams, that is already in discussion between India and Pakistan. I don't think Chinese are contemplating, hallucinating because it's not possible. They're not hallucinating any such exercise. And Pakistan is just trying to build that China is their friend and might do few things. Chinese are extremely sensible and I don't think they will create problem with India just to placate some leaders or even military in Pakistan. So despite their very close relations.
So the question, Mr. Joshi, is that what is making Pakistan so nervous but the fact that we in India have kept the IWT in abeyance? What is making them so nervous?
See, they have been always nervous about the IWT and all their interactions with us whenever we went with the design of a dam. They would say that India can flood us as and when they want. So therefore, they never agreed for providing the bottom sluice in the reservoirs. Now, we are on the other hand, we said if you don't provide such sluices, our reservoirs are going to silt up very fast, and therefore you must allow us. But ultimately, at the end of the day, all the projects which we have constructed, they have not agreed to our drawdown flushing of the reservoirs, even though we have built certain projects with the low-level sluices, but they have not agreed. So, and in their minds, they have only this, that India is going to use this as a water weapon, which probably, which is a fallacy, in the sense that the total volume which we have created so far, it is not enough to create any kind of big floods in Pakistan, even if we are operating them simultaneously, which definitely we cannot do without submerging our own areas. So that has been really the threat. Now, this is a political posturing, as Dr. Saab has said, that Pakistan is drawing parallels between Indus and Brahmaputra, that if we do it there, then China will, on our part, will do it in Brahmaputra. I tell them, please go ahead and build those dams. And as regards our own territory, we have 3-4 very large dams contemplated already. But we are not able to do that. And the moment some alteration of the flow occurs and we have a dam like Megdong coming up on the upstream, we have to create certain reservoirs ourselves, otherwise we'll be flooded definitely. So that gives us more reason to construct larger projects at the Siang site, upper Siang site.
Professor Singh, you're saying that China has no such plans, but my question remains the same. But why is Pakistan behaving so nervously?
I mean, let me answer that. I do want to answer that question. Pakistan is paranoid because India has been extremely generous and considerate, and therefore there is a dependence relationship. And India, if India starts behaving like China does to India, then it could create enormous problems for Punjab province of Pakistan that dominates Pakistan politics. And in that sense, because they are used to a very stable relationship where India has really been abiding by the promises that it made during the Indus Water agreement, and Chinese have never kept any promises. They refuse to even supply hydrological data, which is supposed to be shared between May and October. And therefore, once India's dependence is low on China, therefore vulnerability of India is also low. Pakistan's vulnerability is higher because their dependence is higher, and that generosity is what makes them paranoid, because India could withhold that generosity potentially if Pakistan doesn't behave the way India wants them to behave. That is why the paranoia.
And sir, before I let go of you and closing the discussion, sir, we live in a time of global warming. Water is a very scarce resource, whether it's the Indus Basin, whether it's the Gangetic Basin, or whether it is the third pole. Do you think in future this is going to be a new fault line, at least specifically in context of South Asian politics, sir?
I think if countries start behaving hegemonic, there's a whole subject of hydrohegemony which we study these days, that could be driven by geopolitics and could create tensions. But if you look at water as a natural resource, bulk of this water simply goes into oceans, and therefore better management of water is what would be required. There is enough water right now for countries to share and prosper and use it. Better mutual understanding, better partnerships, better sharing of data, and better management, conservation of water is what would be required for both upper riparian, lower riparian states to manage that resource much better. And I don't think there is dearth of resource as of now, but it's the politics that makes problems very often, because if you hear Bilawal Bhutto lately talking of India weaponizing water, whereas nothing such has happened. Pakistan's water share has not been stopped by India. It's only held in abeyance as of now. If need be, India could potentially interpret those same clauses of Indus Water Treaty maybe slightly differently, and of course talk in terms of India's own needs and so on. But I think it's the discourse and narrative that creates tensions. If you talk to some experts who deal with water resources, they believe that there is enough water and only better management of water is what is required, and that requires better relationship between upper riparian and lower riparian states, which in this case of between China and India and between India and Pakistan is something which is not there in that sense.
Thank you both of you for joining me. This is all on point. In the next on point, we will look at how India is diversifying its weapon import mix, even as United States of America cribs about our dependence on Russian imports. But the fact is, our mix over a period of time has become far more eclectic and diverse. So, US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says buying most of its military gear from Russia rubs United States in the wrong way. But India going towards acquiring more military equipment will boost bilateral ties.
There were certain things that the Indian government did that generally rubbed the United States the wrong way. For instance, you generally buy your military gear from Russia. That's a way to kind of get up, under the skin of America if you're going to buy your armaments from Russia. So I think India is starting to move towards buying the military equipment from the United States, which then goes a long way.
Now let me put some facts on table. India was the world's second largest arms importer from 2020 to 24. As per SIPRI, Russia remains the top seller for arms, providing 38% of arms deliveries to India. But this has fallen from 55% during the previous 5-year period because India is increasingly diversifying its defense imports. This is how India is handling Donald Trump, and this is how India is making itself Atmanirbhar. Now, what do? We purchased $21.8 billion of stuff from Russia. From France, we purchased $5.2 billion of military hardware. With the United States, it's $4.5 billion. With Israel, it's $2.9 billion. And let me tell you, Americans in 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s were opposed to selling armament to India, and they were pumping armament to the United States of America. So, they can't sit on a high horse and lecture us. They were providing weapons to our enemies. Now, India has recently inked some big deals with the United States of America. This includes the $2.99 billion deal to procure 31 Predator drones in 24. So what we have purchased from US, MH-60R Seahawk, multi-role naval helicopter, deal signed 2018, value 2.6 billion. MQ-98B Guardian drones, armed surveillance, deal in 21, value $4 billion. M777 155mm howitzer, role light